Hello, I'm Syrene Selene from Straight Spiritual, and I'm here today with Gustavo, who is an educator and practitioner of Tantra and the host of the channel Tantra Thoughts. How are you today, Gustavo?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Mayra.
So, I know in Western culture specifically, there's a lot of different understandings of what Tantra is. And I was just curious, how would you describe Tantra?
Tantra is a 7,000-year-old tradition that originated in ancient India that has the endeavor of allowing a human being to become godlike, to move from humanity to divinity. And of
Mhm.
course, a human being is it's tough enough being a human being. We're almost trying to move from our animal sides, our animalistic nature, to being human. So imagine
Yes.
now also trying to become godlike, right?
Right.
So tantra is that endeavor. Um, and it has to do with practicing meditation to achieve that goal, overcoming weaknesses, overcoming fears. It's a whole sort of spiritual science with systematic practices that allow you to attain this goal.
And so it's you could almost say that like the loftier goal or the higher goal in tantra is to become one with the divine, or but it can still help people just to move out of their survival animal and maybe just become more humane,
Yes.
right?
Right. Let's hope you get even just that. Just be fully human. And
Yes,
yes,
just be more
tantra,
humane.
exactly. Exactly. And tantra will help with that.
Yes, absolutely. So, what are some of your base teachings and the principles that you follow?
The base teachings that I follow, some of the my sort of guiding principles that are from the world of tantra are the yamas and niyamas, which many people also associate from classical yoga. Um, those are the ethical guidelines. So
Mm.
the five yamas are a lot about how you deal with the world, non-hurting, non-stealing, living simply, seeing all as an expression of the divine. And then the niyamas are about personal practices like mental cleanliness, external cleanliness, being content, um, practicing selfless service, continually reading uplifting books or scriptures. And then actually the last one, Ishvara Pranidhan, is the acceleration. When you make this determination in your life that now you're going to accelerate yourself on this path and get to the goal faster, that's called Ishvara Pranidhan. And that's usually facilitated with the help of a mantra, that a mantra is now going to um, sort of drive your psyche and your mind. The mantra is the vehicle to get you closer to the soul, to expand the mind in order to sort of release the soul.
And they also have to do with sound frequencies as well.
Right. The Sanskrit language, it derives from a connection with the chakras. So each chakra has a particular root sound, and
Mm.
each of the petals inside of the chakra also have their own root sound. So, so the Sanskrit language is supposed to derive from all of the different petals from the different chakras. And so they are, when you repeat a Sanskrit mantra, it has a special effect on the mind because it has a special resonance with the chakras.
So, as someone who practices authentic tantra, can you explain the difference between that and neo-tantra?
So Neo-Tantra is I think it originated at some point in the 1920s, 1940s, something like that. I think it was George Feuerstein who coined the term Neo-Tantra. And I think it was because he was identifying that people were creating sort of like sexual, we're trying to make sex more spiritual. And
Mm.
so And so they were in that endeavor. They were finding, let's say, traditional practices in order to facilitate that. And I believe the work of Margot Anand, for example, she did a lot of work in teaching couples how to have more meaningful sex, how to view their sex as spiritual. And she also had some
Mm.
background in Tantra. So she kind of fused, she kind of like created her program and used a lot of tantric principles in the background. But then those two um, became viewed as one. And like her, others did similar things. And
Mm.
and so then you have the creation of Neo-Tantra. But it was important to recognize that this was this has nothing to do really with the original ancient teachings and principles of Tantra. You know, although there are some other points of reference that created this, like for example, in Buddhism, you have the Yabyam, you know, the two lovers that are engaged. They look like they're sitting in meditation together, and that really is supposed to represent the two lovers being the divine and the unit being, the infinite being and the unit being becoming one. And so this iconography of this embrace or this sexual act in context with something spiritual and having to do and also connected with tantra, I think led people to believe that tantra is about sex, about sacred sex. But the traditional tantra is not really. It's the neo-tantra that has emphasized that. And there's some benefits to that, you know, that people have now some new systems to allow them to experience sexuality in combined with spirituality. Those are good benefits that people can benefit from. Uh, and then maybe a drawback is that though some people though may not make the distinction, and so a neo-tantra event can just be easily labeled as a tantra event, and it creates confusion because the traditional tantra doesn't really emphasize sex at all.
What was your spiritual experience like before you were exposed to Tantra?
Before I was exposed to tantra, I was an atheist. It was I became an atheist like in 10th grade because I had a friend who was an atheist.
Oh, interesting.
and I and I remember having those discussions with him when he was like trying to teach me that there was no God. And it was very important for me to go through that phase because it allowed me to divorce myself from the religions that I knew that I grew up in.
Mm.
It helped you to think logically.
Yes, it
Yeah.
helped me to think logically. It helped me to think outside of the dogma from those religions.
Mm.
So it was a very good period to just sort of kind of be observing spiritual, religion, spirituality, and be removed from it for a few years. But then I had a girlfriend who was Wiccan. And so I was really fascinated by that too, thinking that she had something different going on. And I found it really interesting. And just the fact that she had this practice to herself, I didn't really engage with it much with her, but I thought it was pretty interesting. And then shortly after, I met the monk.
Oh, interesting. And so perhaps your experience as an atheist helped you be open to your, somebody who was a Wiccan. Whereas if you were thinking of things from a dogmatic perspective, you may have been intimidated by that, right?
Exactly. I could have been
Yeah.
judgmental, right? I
Right.
could have been like, my church says that that's Satanism
Right.
or something like
Yeah.
that.
So,
What was the religion that you were raised in?
Christianity.
Interesting. And how has that influenced your practice?
Christianity taught me about devotion. I really enjoy the devotional aspects of Christianity. The when you go to a church and people are singing praises and getting lost in the music, and and their communion with Jesus, with God. So I was able to pick that up early on. I also really like the fact that in Christianity there is the idea of the personal God. So you have a personal relationship with God or the Supreme, and they view the Supreme as like a father. And
Mm.
so then that's really helpful, because we human beings need a form in order to channel our energy towards something. It's hard to sort of try to connect with something abstract like
Mm.
the infinite or the universe, but rather as they and others see that supreme entity as a father. So now, okay, yes, I know what that's like. A father is someone who shelters me, who loves me, who takes care of me. And so if that supreme entity is like my father, my divine, my cosmic father, then I feel loved, I feel embraced, and I can always go to that supreme one for advice, for shelter. So Christianity helped me to see the supreme. It was a nice orientation, because now I see it that way. I see the
Mm.
supreme entity as a cosmic father, and I am a son, and
Oh,
we are all its children. And so we have nothing to fear. We have nothing to fear in life, because we are the children of the divine, and the divine is always taking care of us.
yeah, it's interesting. In Buddhism, there's something similar with image meditation where you just can think of one specific image and hold that in your mind for a long time. It could be a plant or it could be an idea of something divine. So I think it's interesting how there's crossover.
I just want to also say that, of course, it doesn't have to be the image of a father.
Mm.
Maybe Christianity emphasizes the father, but also a divine mother.
How is Tantra applicable in modern relationships and dating?
Tantra is very much open toward family building and partnerships. It's not like other yogic traditions who used to try to say that in order to become the Buddha, you had to become a monk or a nun, or you had to leave the world and do that in a cave. But no, in Tantra, we believe that it's okay to stay right in the world. And so it means that you can even attain this sort of Buddhahood right in your own family life, or in your relationship that you have.
Mm.
Now, family life is very complex, because you don't even have time to sometimes eat yourself, because you're trying to feed your kids. You don't have time to even take a shower, because you're trying to balance the family. Much less will you have time to do meditation or yoga. So um it's a challenge, but it does not negate the possibility of making family life about spiritual life. And it doesn't negate the possibility that you and your loved one, you and your partner, can also have a spiritual life together practicing Tantra.
My last question for you today is a lot of people are very aware of yoga. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about how yoga and Tantra are relatable.
Yoga means union, right? So, and what is Tantra? Tantra is the endeavor of to unify the unit being with the supreme being. So these two have the same goal. They are in essence the same thing, and I see the two as synonymous.
Beautiful.